and welcome to the very first episode of Shawn, Thinking Out Loud. I'm your host, Shawn, and today I'm excited to delve into some thoughts that have been swirling around in my mind lately. So settle in, grab your favorite drink, and let's get into it. Lately, I've had to make some tough choices on my YouTube channel. I've implemented a ban on two very specific words: Nazi and fascist. Now, before you raise an eyebrow or gasp in disbelief, hear me out. While I value open dialogue, I've realized that certain terms can severely derail a conversation and invoke strong, often unproductive emotions. You see, there's a fascinating phenomenon I like to call the 1 in 4 mafia, my very own term for a group of folks who can struggle with reading or writing above a 6th grade level. I'm not belittling anyone. I truly believe that everyone has the capability to articulate their thoughts if they choose to. But let's face it, how often do we lean on sensationalism and extreme language to emphasize our points? Imagine if instead of tossing around heavy words like Nazi, we cultivated our vocabularies and started using more precise language. It doesn't just elevate the conversation, it also provides clarity. For example, instead of labeling someone a fascist, what if we dissected their views and discussed the specific issues with their ideology? And here's where the challenge lies: raising the bar, using our big words, as I like to say. Unraveling our thoughts, articulating them, and communicating them effectively is an art form, one that requires practice and, dare I say, a bit of courage. Here's a thought. Did you know that language evolves so quickly? According to research, a new word enters the English language every 98 minutes. So why not be a part of the evolution and set a standard for discourse? And let's not underestimate the power of a well-placed quote. As George Orwell said, if thought corrupts language, language can also corrupt thought. This holds especially true in today's polarized environment. If we want to elevate conversations, we have to be careful with our word choice and challenge ourselves and others to do the same. This morning, I found Bob Reich again. You know Bobby, the guy who made headlines for suggesting that Elon Musk should face repercussions for what he deemed reckless free speech. Reich represents a particular approach to public discourse, a blend of populism and grievance that resonates with many. But today, we'll dive deep into the concept of victims of the Democratic playing card deck, a phrase that captures a certain subset of Democratic voters who feel marginalized, aggrieved, and, as a result, deeply motivated to engage in the political arena. They are often perceived as the backbone of the party, your essential voting bloc rallying around issues that speak to their sense of injustice and victimhood. Let's break down this idea. These individuals often see themselves as wronged, be due to race, class, age, or gender. The current political landscape heavily exploits this narrative, framing opposing parties as adversaries intent on pushing them down further. This dynamic is potent. It plays into the emotional psyche of many voters who feel misrepresented or sidelined by the system. For instance, consider how often we hear language that invokes fear. Terms like holding you down, destroying your rights, or screwing over your community. It's a strategic choice meant to mobilize these individuals toward a single political cause. By telling them they're victims of systemic oppression, Democratic leaders galvanize support, crafting a narrative where opposing parties are painted as the enemy. Now, let's talk about the populist bomb. It's a tactic that some factions within the left have perfected, articulating messages that resonate with people's desires and fears without necessarily providing solid facts or substantive solutions. For many, it feels good to hear what they want to hear, even when it borders on contradictory. Health care for all, without raising taxes. That's an enticing promise, but the reality of economics is more complex than that. The populist bomb effectively combines grievances, that feel-good rhetoric that often lacks accountability to facts. It exploits existing sentiments of disenfranchisement, pulling people into a sort of emotional vortex. I mean, think about it. When politicians focus on appealing to fear and anxiety rather than providing a detailed, rational discourse, they can easily manipulate public perception. This is just as effective as it is concerning. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. Fear-mongering isn't merely a tactic. It's almost a political art form. As one political commentator once said, fear is the great motivator. It drives decisions and can even create entire voting blocks. It reminds us that when voters' emotions are tapped into, they may support candidates not based on informed policy positions, but out of fear and loathing for perceived threats. Did you know that during times of economic downturn, voters turn out for leftist parties more? It's almost as if their messages become more vivid, heightened emotional responses lead to higher engagement. So, as we look at the narrative spun by Democratic leadership, it's essential to question not only the validity of the messages, but also the motivations behind them. Gun control in America is as polarizing as ever. With mass shootings dominating headlines and calls for stricter regulations growing louder, it's easy to get swept up in the emotions of the moment. Recently, I came across a video featuring Charlie Kirk discussing this very topic, and it got me thinking. Listening to the video raised a provocative point in my mind about firearms, specifically about semi-automatic rifles versus fully automatic weapons used by law enforcement. If we're going to have a conversation about restricting access to certain types of firearms, shouldn't we also discuss the kind of weaponry that police officers carry? I argue that if police officers are equipped with fully automatic weapons, essentially machine guns, shouldn't civilians at least have access to semi-automatic versions? After all, in many situations, the average citizen might encounter dangerous situations before law enforcement even arrives. Now, this leads us to a crucial aspect of the debate: training. The Second Amendment grants us the right to bear arms, but that doesn't mean we can't also impose reasonable requirements like training to ensure safe firearm use. Imagine if we created programs where veterans, many of whom are struggling to find jobs after serving our country, could teach responsible firearms handling and safety courses. This could not only provide valuable skills to civilians, but also help veterans reintegrate into society. And here's the kicker. Law-abiding gun owners are often overshadowed by the actions of criminals who disregard laws altogether. So why not focus on empowering responsible ownership rather than punitive measures against those who follow the law? To quote Thomas Jefferson, laws that forbid the carrying of arms disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. This quote brings us back to the heart of the discussion. Criminals will always find a way to access weapons regardless of the laws in place. Did you know that according to a 2020 survey by Pew Research Center, nearly 30% of American adults reported owning a firearm? That's a significant portion of our population. Clearly, this isn't just a fringe issue, it's something that touches many lives. Now let's discuss a pivotal moment for the Trump administration. A series of high-stakes deals and diplomatic meetings that have put America back in the spotlight. So grab your headphones, get ready to explore how a $600 billion investment from Saudi Arabia, a $96 billion Boeing deal with Qatar, and the first Syria-U.S. presidential meeting in 25 years are reshaping our global standing. To understand the significance of these developments, let's take a step back. The Trump administration has often been characterized by its bold moves in foreign policy, shifting alliances, pulling out of long-standing agreements, and making significant investments. Today, we're zeroing in on the three key milestones that signal a robust U.S. re-engagement with the Middle East and beyond. First up is the staggering $600 billion investment from Saudi Arabia. This isn't just pocket change, it represents a renewed commitment from one of America's key allies in the region. This deal has implications that stretch far beyond mere dollars. It's about strategic partnerships in technology, infrastructure, and military capabilities. What does this mean for both nations? For the U.S., it strengthens its foothold in a region often fraught with tension. For Saudi Arabia, it diversifies their economy away from oil dependency as they look toward Vision 2030. Next, we have the monumental $96 billion Boeing deal with Qatar. This agreement emphasizes America's role as a leader in global defense contracts. As tensions rise globally, Qatar has sought to bolster its military capabilities. Who better to partner with than Boeing? This deal not only secures jobs here at home, but also reaffirms U.S. commitment to Gulf security. Finally, let's talk about the historic Syria-U.S. presidential meeting, the first in 25 years. This meeting isn't just a photo op, it's a crucial step towards reestablishing diplomatic ties and addressing complex issues like terrorism and refugee crises. By engaging with Syria, the U.S. is signaling that it's ready to play a more active role in stabilizing the region. It's a bold move that could lead to significant shifts in geopolitical dynamics. Did you know that according to a recent report by Brookings Institution, successful diplomatic relations can reduce conflict and promote trade? It's fascinating how economic ties can create pathways to peace, one Boeing jet at a time. Remember President Reagan's quote, "Peace is not absence of conflict, it is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means." This sentiment rings true today as America seeks to manage its relationships in a complex world. I'm going to tackle a case that sparked heated debates across social media and news platforms, the Carmelo Anthony case out of Texas. Now, I know some of you might be tired of hearing about this kid, but trust me, there's more than meets the eye. Was it truly self-defense? Let's find out together. So grab your headphones, sit back, and let's dive in. To give you a bit of context, the Carmelo Anthony case revolves around an incident involving a young man in Texas who has claimed self-defense after a confrontation turned violent. The situation has raised questions about the definition of self-defense in today's legal landscape. What does the law say? How do we differentiate between self-defense and aggression? Today we'll explore these questions and hear insights from legal experts, me, who can shed light on this complex issue. First, let's break down what self-defense actually means. In many states, including Texas, the law allows individuals to use reasonable force to protect themselves from imminent harm. However, what constitutes reasonable force can be subjective and often varies from case to case. Now, let's discuss the specifics of Carmelo's situation. Reports suggest that there was a verbal altercation that escalated quickly. In incidences like these, we often see the fight or flight response kick in. Was Carmelo acting out of fear for his life, or did he overreact? This is where expert opinions become crucial.
Before bringing a firearm to bear for personal protection, quickly determine if the following three conditions exist. Through their language, behavior, demeanor, another person has demonstrated their intent to kill or seriously injure you. The person has the means at hand to carry out his intention because he is armed with a knife, gun, club, or other lethal weapon, or, if unarmed, is physically capable of overpowering you. The physical conditions of the encounter are such that the other person can carry out the attack. These conditions warrant the use of lethal force on your part. Keep in mind that all three criteria must exist. Such conduct is not justified solely to protect property. You should unequivocally be afraid for your life.
By examining these elements, we can start to understand the nuances involved in legal defenses. It's not just about what happened, it's about the mindset of the person involved at that moment. Here's an interesting fact. Did you know that in Texas, the so-called castle doctrine allows individuals to use force, even deadly force, to protect themselves in their homes? This principle has made self-defense claims a hot topic in many legal discussions. Also, let's consider a quote from renowned civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump. Self-defense should never be an excuse for taking a life. It should be about preserving life. This quote emphasizes the importance of understanding intent behind actions. Let's break down the three critical conditions that must exist before one can legally justify using lethal force. As I said, 1. Demonstrated intent. The first criterion demands that the other person has shown a clear intention to kill or inflict serious harm. In Carmelo's case, it's important to note that his statement, "Put your hands on me and find out," might indicate he did not perceive a lethal threat. This raises questions about his mindset and intentions during the altercation. 2. Means to carry out the threat. The second condition requires that the aggressor is equipped to follow through with their threat, whether by being armed or capable of overpowering the other person. Here, we know that Carmelo's opponent was unarmed, making this criterion questionable in terms of self-defense justification. 3. Physical conditions of the encounter. Lastly, the circumstances must allow for an attack to occur. If both parties are equally matched in physicality, this could be contested in court. Carmelo's status as an athlete adds a layer of complexity. However, if he did not feel threatened enough to escape or de-escalate, this condition might not hold. Now, it's crucial to remember that all three conditions need to be present simultaneously for lethal force to be justified. Simply put, it's not enough to feel threatened. There has to be tangible evidence of imminent danger. Interestingly enough, many people believe that self-defense laws favor the individual claiming protection, but that's not always the case. For instance, in some states, a duty to retreat law mandates that individuals must try to escape dangerous situations before resorting to force. This could be pivotal in Carmelo's case when jurors evaluate his decisions in that moment. As famous civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." It's vital that we approach these discussions thoughtfully and compassionately. Recently, I had an interesting conversation with someone who claimed that you only need background checks when purchasing a firearm from a dealer. Now, while this may hold true in some places, it's far from the complete picture. In fact, the requirements for background checks can vary significantly depending on where you live. According to the Giffords Law Center, 19 states plus the District of Columbia and Washington require background checks even for private gun sales. This means that in many places, your local laws dictate how gun sales operate. Let's break it down further. In states like California, New York, and Illinois, not only do you need a background check when buying from a dealer, but those same sales rules extend to private sales as well. The idea is to create a safer environment by ensuring that firearms aren't falling into the wrong hands. However, there are states where the laws are more lenient or non-existent, leading to some serious discussions about safety and responsibility. Now, when I pointed out these nuances to my friend, he wasn't convinced. He cited ATF regulations as if they were the ultimate authority on the matter. While it's true that federal law sets a baseline, state laws can be stricter. It's a reminder that understanding gun laws isn't just about one single document, it's about knowing what applies in your specific state. And let's talk about training requirements. Some states require permits before a background check can even be performed. It's like needing a ticket before you can enter the concert hall. So yes, there is an added layer of responsibility in those jurisdictions. Speaking of responsibility, here's a powerful quote from former Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. "Real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time." This encapsulates the ongoing dialogue about gun laws in America. Each law passed or repealed represents a step toward what many hope will be a safer society. Did you know that Vermont is one of the few states that does not require a permit or background check for private sales? This has led to significant debates among lawmakers and citizens alike about the balance between rights and safety. All right, folks, as we start to wrap things up today, let's remember the key takeaways. 1. Let's engage with language and elevate our communication skills. 2. Gun ownership comes with responsibilities. Training is essential. 3. America is stepping back into the global arena, and we should be paying attention. 4. And lastly, let's critically evaluate narratives around self-defense that may not hold water. Thank you all for tuning in this episode of Shawn Thinking Out Loud. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please share this podcast with your friends and family. You can also hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And remember, stay curious and keep thinking out loud. Until next time.